Not much time off for you Sport Fishing Championship fans. It's time to kick things off with the second stop for the Sport Fishing Championship, the 52nd annual Salt Life Bluewater Tournament from Comanche Cove Yacht Harbor in St. Augustine, Florida. They've had 51 editions of this. The 52nd looks to be even better than the prior 51s. Welcome, everybody, to the Sport Fishing Championship. I'm Robbie Floyd, joined by three-time World Sailfish Champion. That's the man, Peter Miller, there with us as well. Petey, it's been a few days off, but now it's time to go from the Gulf Division to the Atlantic Division here at St. Augustine.
That's right. There's 22 boats fishing the tournament. They have a lay day. I believe they're also going to possibly fish till Sunday because of the weather. So there's some exciting times up there. You know, when you have options, when you can predict the weather and say, you know what, let's sit home for a little bit, let's regroup, and then we'll go out there and crush it.
Well, we heard that from Scott Stanley the other day when they were having a Mahi tournament. He was already looking ahead through the week and saying, you know what, if we need an extra day, we'll go ahead and push it. And they made that call. So what's interesting about this tournament, you know, like when we were in the Gulf, when they took off, they didn't come back until 3 days later. Here, they're going to be coming back each and every night that they're supposed to, but they can pick 2 out of these 4 days. That's a little different, isn't it?
That's right. You know, and some of the boats are fishing Friday and Sunday, so it gives them a chance to regroup, like we talked about, to be able to regather their composure, re-rig. It gives them a little chance to breathe and go out and focus. And maybe there's other people that have fished out there, and then they can follow in their footsteps and possibly fish the same areas if they're catching fish.
Even if you pick the first day to go out and fish today, it started off a little cloudy, looked like it was going to rain. Things are clearing up, but the seas are rough. Even if you pick day one, you're not going to have smooth sailing. The calmest of days is supposed to be Sunday. Now, when things get slick, post-frontal conditions, that's generally not the day you want to go out. But if you're having problems, you don't want to deal with the weather, Sunday may be your only good day to go out as far as being calm.
Yeah, you know, the fact that the guys are fishing like a Friday and a Sunday, it shows that that Saturday is probably going to be blown out. So it's obviously picking up in speed on this Friday, on next Friday, or this coming Friday, I should say. And you know the weather's going to be blowing even harder. So, you know, a lot of times with that barometric pressure change, as you know, the fish can start to bite or they may not bite at all. So you have two options. When it changes again to come back to those calmer conditions, you may also get that moment where the barometric pressure is changing. Maybe get a bite, maybe not. So you have a couple of windows there that you may be able to score big.
A big guess, but one thing we don't have to guess about, and that's who's going to be a champion this event. It's not going to be the defending champ. Half a buck, not going to go back to back to back to back. They've already won 3 in a row. They're not going to make it 4. They're not here this week. That's a surprise. I hear they may be fishing down in the Bahamas, but I guess when you're so dominant, you're like, I've been here. I've done that. It's like you winning World Sailfish Championships. I mean, it's old hat.
You know, half a buck's got back. You know, baby's got back, and they don't need any more back. So they're over in the Bahamas, and they're looking for the big blue marlin with big backs. You know, those big blues when they get chunky, they get those big shoulders on them, just like a largemouth bass. I always compare the two because they just get beefy, they get thicker, maybe not longer, but they just grow in girth. The whole thing just gets bigger. And you know, the Bahamas right now, the bite's on fire. Also, St. Augustine. You know, we saw last week while we were looking at the Louisiana tournament at Hurricane Hole, we saw somebody doing a Mahi tournament, and they actually caught a blue marlin on a Mahi lure, like a little chugger head. You're out there waiting for a 10, 20 pounder to show up, and all of a sudden you got a 200 pounder on the end of your line on this Mahi lure. Pretty impressive to get that like 2 boat side on that little lure.
Yeah, and you mentioned it's hot in the Bahamas. We're going to be there at Walker's Cay here very shortly. But yeah, things have been very hot here. I think I've heard, and again, they're not generally out there trying to catch blue marlin now. There's a lot of Mahi tournaments, a lot of meat fish tournaments going on. But I heard 10 blue marlin in the past 10 days. That's huge for right here, right now. We have not really seen that in the past couple of years of this tournament.
That really is a good bite. You know, living down in South Florida, a lot of people don't target the blue marlin because it's really hit and miss. You know, we always target the sailfish, and guys are getting 5, 10, 15, 20 shots at billfish or sailfish each day. Blue marlin, I think if they really targeted them down here for a blue marlin tournament, you would see a bunch of blues. But it just shows that that's a really good fishery. There's always a lot of bait up there in St. Augustine, and the fishing is good. You know, you've seen half a buck take it to the hole 3 times. They said, we got a hat trick. Let's get out of here. We'll go to the Bahamas, give someone else a chance.
Championship fish, very prevalent is the mahi. We might see others as well, but I mean, as far as the meat fish are concerned, the ones that you put on the table, there's a chance that we could set the tone here as well for that division.
Yeah, there's some nice wahoo up there. There's always good wahoo fishing. This time of year, the wahoo are biting pretty well. I mean, typically they like it more December, January, February. But hey, people are getting them regularly. We saw one in the Hurricane Hole tournament. That was in the Gulf, but that was a really nice one that T0 caught. So listen, it's anybody's game. We've got mahi, we've got wahoo, we've got tuna. Those are the championship fish. We don't think you're going to get a championship tuna. Possible that you get a wahoo. It's very possible to get a mahi. A lot of guys have been reporting bigger mahi this time of year, and they're really happy to be seeing these fish show up.
Yeah, the numbers have been.
Robbie, you got a dog in the background chewing on a bone. Give that dog another bone.
She's hungry too, as well. That's my puppy. That's Rocky back there taking care of business. Let's talk about some of the boats that are going to be taking care of business. This is not just a big boat tournament. Yeah, you might see a Hatteras out there. You might see a big Viking. But really, a lot of center consoles getting the job done. And you've mentioned make that run quicker, get out there, do your business, get back as well. It gives you more time to fish.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot of benefits to fishing in a faster boat. You get out there, you get the baits out there, but sometimes when you're fishing in an outboard boat, your prop wash is a little more bubbly. You don't have such a clean prop wash like some of these big sport fish boats do. I mean, so I've been on some boats on the back of a sport fish, and there's barely any white water coming off the back of the boat, and they seem to raise a lot of fish. But then you'll get a big center console, maybe a cat, and you'll see these fish come up in those spreads as well. So, it's anybody's guess as to who's going to do it. And also, when you're going really fast, I'm giving you the pros and the cons. Look, I'm a center console guy. I fished on big boats also my whole life. But when you are getting out there really, really fast, you miss a lot of subtleties. You may miss a flying fish getting up in the air, meaning maybe there's a sailfish under them, just pushing them up and they're just floating away, because a sailfish can't catch a flying fish and the flying fish knows it. So they just puff out, and you might go 70 miles an hour right past it and go, I didn't see a thing. The slower boat or the bigger boat that's going slower may see that, will set up and put the baits out and catch a sailfish on their way to the grounds.
That's good work. I've never heard you talk about it quite like that before, but you're right. I mean, there are a couple of different opportunities for these guys. We do see a lot of the center consoles. I know one of those Hatteras I was talking about earlier, Real Therapy. We can go ahead and let the cat out of the bag this morning, catches a sailfish right off the bat. So big boat catching a billfish. We're got our first one in. And with them coming back each night, we're going to get reports and hear like how it was, how many for how many. Because in most sports, you don't talk about baseball, maybe what's your batting average. But in bill fishing, you hear how many looks I got compared to how many catches I got. And we already have one, maybe two already today.
Oh, that's pretty huge. Like when we fish these tournaments, the captain knows exactly how many fish came up in the spread. Some didn't eat. They're called window shoppers. They take a look and they move on. They're just looking at the windows going, come on, honey, let's go to the next store. Now let's just keep going. Let's just get some ice cream. Anyway, that's what the sailfish are saying. Sometimes when we're down here, we'll have 6 fish show up, 2 fish eat, the rest of them go through, or 4 fish eat, and only 1 stays on. So that's 1 for 4 at that point. So your ratio is only at 25%. The captains will always know that number. The people in the cockpit always forget those numbers. They'll be like, no, we caught that 1. That's all we saw. We're 100%. I don't know what to tell you. We're just the best ever.
Ron Heisler caught that sailfish earlier, first billfish on record for this year, but also a little bit later, about 45 minutes ago, catching a blue marlin. Now, same waters for these guys, as you said, they may be running out to those waters, catch a sailfish a little more into shore, or are they swimming around the same areas? Because to catch 2 within a couple of hour, time difference, 2 different species, that's different. Of course, you get a lot more points for that blue marlin. That's what they want to see.
Yeah, I mean, when you get 75 points for a sailfish, but you get 450 for a blue marlin, you really want those blue marlin. I mean, that's a lot of sailfish to try to get up to that 450. So that's exciting. And the fact that Real Therapy has a sail and a blue on the board already, they're obviously in the right spot. And it makes me think that they're kind of concentrating in an area that is holding bait. I don't think they caught a sailfish and then picked up and ran somewhere else. You don't leave fish to find fish. I believe they're in a bait-rich environment, and I think they're focusing in that area.
With the option, we talked about a 4-day tournament with 2 days to fish. I mean, they made the right decision for them. There's teams that are sitting there watching or hearing these catch reports come in, knowing that they have tomorrow or the next 2 days to go out there and fish. Woulda, coulda, shoulda. You're done today. Once you make your decision, you're stuck to it.
That is the best feeling in the world, to go out on day one, get those fish under your belt, and as it starts to blow, you just grab your little blanket at night and just snuggle in and just go, ooh, I feel so good that we got those under our belt. It's kind of like strapping down your house before a hurricane. Your neighbors are like, it's not coming. You put up all your shutters, hurricane comes through, and you're like, we're fine. Everybody else is like, whoa, this is a problem. So that's exactly what they did.
So again, midday on day number one, Real Therapy, Ron Heisler with a couple of catches. Peter, I know we talked about it could go one way or the other on the calm day, which is supposed to be Sunday. In your experience, in years past, what has it been like for you when it is rough out there? Because the fish are constantly living in water. They don't care about the rain. But I always heard, and correct me if I'm wrong, that low pressure, they tend to eat better under low pressure systems, which would be the thunderstorms.
I feel like, yes, that is correct. I feel like the low pressure, but it's also the high pressure. I always tell everybody, and I always feel that it's a change in the barometric pressure, whether it's low to high. And that's when the fish feel like they have to eat, like a storm's coming or something's going on, and they want to eat as much as they can before this thing happens, whatever it is that's affecting them. And then they'll go down, they'll digest, and they'll come back up when they're ready to eat again, when the conditions are clear. And I believe it's a huge factor. So we wait for those cold fronts. When we fish for billfish, we wait for a cold front in Miami, and we know when that wind blows from the north and it's rough and we have a north current, the seas stack up and we might have 6, 8, 10-foot seas, and you see the fish tailing down seas. They use the inertia of the wind and the waves to push them down, and just their tails are out of the water, kicking and paddling and getting them down through that current, because they swim against the current. They expend a lot of energy. So those are the conditions we want, and then we can sight fish for them. We say, hey, here come 4 tailers, cast out to the right, cast out to the left, and it's really exciting times.
Let's hope they're out there doing just that today. Again, the first day of 4 is the Salt Life Bluewater Tournament. 22 boats in this tournament. They pick which 2 days are the best for them. But right now, Real Therapy with 2 on the board. Petey, we'll be talking about it on Sunday, which will be the conclusion of this 52nd annual event. But throughout the week, I know you're an Instagram guy. You can follow it on Instagram, Facebook, all the social medias. They can find out more there, right?
That sounds good to me. Looking forward to it.
Again, Courtney and crew's down there. They'll get you all the scoop. And again, we've got 2 on the board already on day number 1 of the Salt Life Bluewater Tournament.
That doesn't make you excited. You need to go take up golf or something else.